Hello, boys. This book is called Farmer Brown Shears His Sheep, a yarn about wool. At some point, you will discover what a yarn is. It's not just something that we turn into blankets. Let's take a closer look at what's going on at Farmer Brown's farm. I see some cows. I see some fluffy sheep. Looks like Farmer Brown is in his kitchen. I see his sink and some sheep outside his window. Some tea, a canister of tea, a canister of sugar. And if you look closely, that says F-L-O. I bet that's the beginning of the word flour. And his coffee cups are hanging here on hooks. He's putting on his jacket. Do you think he's making breakfast, lunch, or dinner? I see toast in a toaster, jam, and butter. What do you think? And the other thing that I'm noticing is that beside his sink, Farmer Brown does not have a dishwasher. It looks like he washes his plates and puts them here in a rack with towels hanging up above. Let's see what's in this story. And I do have to tell you that this was one of my kids, you know, Uncle Matt and Aunt Beck, one of their favorite stories. Farmer Brown was shearing sheep, piling up a snowy heap of wool that filled his shed knee-deep. Clip, buzz, clip, buzz. He took their wool and left them fuzz. You'll have to ask Mom and Dad why sheep are sheared, because that's a lot to explain in a video. But see how the sheep are fluffy here? And once he clips all their wool off, they're little skinny sheep. Look at his little backside. He filled his bags up one by one with fleece, but when his work was done, clouds had covered up the sun. The sheep saw all their wool in sacks. "Bah!" they cried. "We want it back." Soon the farmer's sheep were shivering. They followed him. He was delivering all their wool to Mr. Green, who washed it out. See, the wool went from the wheelbarrow in the bag into the big cauldron. And Mr. Green washed it out and combed it clean. Comb, pull, he cleaned and carded all their wool. You'll have to ask Mom and Dad what it means to card wool. And then also ask them about lanolin. That's some good stuff. Their fleece made such a fluffy stack. "Bah!" they cried. "We want it back." Look at that fluffy stack in the window. Farmer Brown and Mr. Green are waist deep in wool. The sheep went running, cold and shaking, behind the farmer. He was taking all their wool to Mr. Peel. See, he's got baskets of wool on his bicycle. Who owned the finest spinning wheel. Twist, hum, twist, hum. What had their fleecy, fluffy fleece become? From fleece to yarn, it stretched and changed. "Ah, our wool looks strange." "Chilly sheep, with goosebumps crying, rode behind the farmer, flying down the road to Mrs. Muller, who changed the yarn from white to color. Dip, dye, drip, dry. The yarn grew bright before their eyes. And while it dried upon the rack, the sheep cried, "Bah! Let's take it back." Farmer Brown looks a little surprised, doesn't he? "What's this?" the farmer asked the sheep. "You're tangled up from head to feet. You're shivering cold and turning blue." So back to Farmer Brown's they flew. Actually, they rode in his car. I guess it was his truck. He found his favorite place to sit. Then Farmer Brown began to knit. And look at the little sheep watching him knit. See his balls of yarn and his cup of tea? Knit, purl, the farmer's fingers looped and twirled. Corbin, that's something else you're going to have to ask your mom about. What does it mean to knit and purl? Crowded on the porch together, trembling in the nippy weather, they watched him knit. And when he quit, what do you think is going to happen? He put a sweater on to fit each sheep, and then he buttoned it. He knit them sweaters, Boaz. The sheep grew nice and warm again in brightly colored cardigans, in patterns made of red and green and all the colors in between. Now each year, come shearing time, the sheep wait eagerly in line to feel the clip and hear the buzz. Oh, look, he's getting sheared, and then he gets a sweater, and he comes out in a new cardigan. So the sheep wait eagerly in line to feel the clip and hear the buzz and wear bright sweaters over fuzz. And this is a really neat illustration, Corbin, because these are knitting needles. Boaz, can you see that? What fun.